My parents skipped my wedding because I married before my perfect sister. Now their perfect family image is falling apart.
So, after dating for 4 years, I, a 32-year-old woman, got hitched about 8 months ago.
Almost everyone showed up, except for my sister, Molin, who's 30, and my parents. It was kind of shocking they didn't come, but I wasn't too surprised about Molin since we've always kinda clashed. With our history, I probably should have seen it coming. Let me give you a little background on my family dynamics. I can't totally blame my parents for always going on about Molin. She's pretty much always been the golden child. From day one, she was great at just about everything. You know the type, she lights up a room. Molin owned every spelling bee, science fair, and talent show back in elementary school. In high school, she was class president, valedictorian, prom queen, the whole shebang. Tall, skinny, and pretty, she even did some modeling during college before diving into her business degree. I remember her getting her first modeling gig in sophomore year, and my parents threw this big party, inviting all the family and her friends. Her first professional headshot still hangs over the fireplace in our living room. Meanwhile, the year I got my computer science degree, all I got was a casual well done while they were busy planning Molin's next photoshoot. After college, she zoomed up the corporate ladder, snagging a senior executive position at just 30, complete with a corner office and a company car. As for me, I'm working as a mid-level software developer at a solid tech firm. I like my job, but it doesn't exactly get my parents bragging to their friends. On top of all that, I've always been shorter and bigger than Molin. I grew up hearing my mom's not-so-nice comments about how I looked. She signed me up for workout classes I didn't want and put me on diets. She'd say stuff like, "Molin never struggles with her weight," or, "You could look like your sister if you put a little more effort in." By high school, I learned to block it out, but, man, it really got to me over time. Eventually, I came to terms with the fact that my parents were more into Molin's accomplishments. What choice did I have? I spent years trying to win them over, joining clubs they suggested, trying out modeling, big fail there, something Molin still brings up. But nothing worked, so I stopped trying in my mid-20s. I focused on carving out my own life, growing in my career, and surrounding myself with people who valued me for me. Honestly, things got better after that. I kept things polite but distant with my folks, just to keep the peace during our obligatory holiday dinners and family gatherings. While they gushed over whatever Molin was up to, they didn't really notice my emotional distance. Then, through a mutual friend at a computer conference, I met my now husband. He actually saw me for who I am, enjoying my dry humor, coding skills, and yes, even my body type. He never once suggested I change or compared me to others. After 4 years together, he popped the question while we were chilling at home with takeout and our favorite TV show in the background. It was perfect. I told my parents about the engagement, but their silence was a big hint. No congrats, just quiet. My mom asked if I was sure I wanted to rush things and suggested I might want to get in better shape before the wedding. My dad barely said a word. At our engagement party, my spouse noticed their weird vibe, though I was too nervous to really register it. My parents spent most of the evening in a corner, huddled over my mom's phone. My spouse later told me he overheard them talking to Molin, who was crying about how this wasn't the plan and how they didn't expect me to marry first. When it came to planning the wedding, my mom wasn't much help. She had tons of Pinterest boards ready for Molin's hypothetical wedding, even though Molin wasn't engaged. She didn't care much about helping me pick out a dress or venue. When I chose an elegant A-line dress that made me feel beautiful, she just said it was practical and suited my figure. Thankfully, my future mother-in-law was awesome and treated me like the daughter she never had. So, I ended up doing a lot of the planning myself, but my partner and I made sure to triple-check the guest list before sending out both digital and snail mail invites. We didn't want to miss anyone, and I'm sure my parents got theirs because the electronic invites showed read receipts. But surprise, surprise, they didn't RSVP. I called, texted, and emailed them a bunch of times, but either got ignored or got vague excuses about them being super busy. I didn't have time to stress about it too much. Planning a wedding is a lot of work. Meanwhile, my in-laws were fantastic, helping out with everything from seating charts to bouquets. At my bridal shower, thrown by my sister-in-law, no one mentioned my parents' no-show, although their absence was a bit of an elephant in the room. Despite all that, the wedding day was amazing. We had a chill afternoon party in a garden right after the morning ceremony. Everyone kept telling us how happy and in love we looked. But, honestly, seeing those empty seats in the front row and skipping the father-daughter dance hurt. After the honeymoon, I tried to figure out what happened and finally got a hold of my mom. She went on a rant about how hurt they were because they supposedly didn't get a formal invite. I was completely baffled. I knew we sent both types of invites and even checked our records to be sure. I didn't confront them for trying to make me doubt myself, I just apologized and ended the call. Later, my husband pointed out how my parents seemed more shocked than thrilled when we announced our engagement and how they always had excuses to not help with the wedding planning. He didn't tell me this earlier because he didn't want to add to my stress. Looking back, it was clear, they couldn't handle me, the less successful daughter, marrying before their golden child, Molin. Their actions just confirmed what I'd been trying to ignore. I could never measure up to her in their eyes. It hit me hard that my wedding, which should have been all about love and new beginnings, became another battleground in their quest to maintain a perfect family image with Molin at the center. Now Molin's engaged, and I hear from family chats, which I'm not in, that my parents are super excited about her wedding. They're bragging about fancy venues and dresses, and my mom's taking her to private fittings, doing all the mom-daughter stuff I never got to do with her. Funny enough, a lot of relatives are now saying they won't attend Molin's wedding. Apparently, the way my parents acted at mine became the talk of the family. When people ask why my folks skipped my wedding, I just tell it like it is, they couldn't deal with me tying the knot first. I'm not trying to get sympathy, just speaking the truth. A few days ago, my parents accused me of trying to ruin Molin's wedding. Seems like family is avoiding her events because of my parents' behavior. My cousin told me that people are wary because they've heard about how I was treated. My parents think I'm jealous and spreading lies, but I'm just telling it how it went down. Maybe they should take a good look at their actions instead of pinning it on me. As things keep changing, it's tough to pretend there's a real relationship with my folks. Their behavior at my wedding finally made me realize that I'll never be enough for them, no matter what. It's not their absence that's the hardest anymore, it's coming to terms with the fact that I never had the loving, supportive parents I wished for. Now, I'm focusing on building a life with someone who loves me for who I am. If anything major happens, I'll let you know. Hey everyone, it's been a couple of weeks since my last update, and wow, a lot has happened. I finally decided to have a face-to-face chat with my folks about their behavior at my wedding and their claims that I messed up my sister's big day. Reading all your supportive comments gave me the push to lay it all out. It all kicked off when they started texting me about how I supposedly ruined the family name. When we chatted on the phone, they immediately started blaming me, saying I was jealous of Molin and orchestrated the whole thing. Now, usually, I would defend myself, but this time I switched gears. I told them, "You're right, I am jealous. But not of Molin's career, looks, or achievements. I'm jealous of the unconditional love and support you've shown her, which I never got." There was just silence for a bit before my mom started saying I was making a big deal out of nothing, claiming they always treated us the same. At that moment, something inside me snapped. Years of bottled up feelings just poured out. I told them about all the times Molin overshadowed my milestones, like that time she had a modeling callback, and mom canceled my graduation dinner, or how her prom dress cost more than a year's worth of my college textbooks. I kept going even though Dad tried to shut me down, calling me dramatic. I talked about how they poured so much time into Molin's fairy tale wedding while hardly caring about mine. I mentioned how painful it was to see their seats empty at my ceremony and how my mother-in-law had to help out with everything, from planning to picking out my dress. Their response was pretty telling. Instead of owning up to anything, they turned it on me, asking why I hadn't spoken up earlier, as if I hadn't tried for years. My mom even said something that finally put things into perspective. "We never thought you'd go so far as to ruin Molin's wedding out of spite, but we always knew you were insecure about her success." It was like they couldn't even hear me. They were more concerned about how Molin felt than the hurt they caused me. For the first time, I didn't try to smooth things over or take back what I said. I just told them straight up, "You're right about one thing. You raised me to believe I would never be as good as Molin and that keeping up the family image was way more important than my feelings. But you also taught me, unintentionally, that I deserve better." After a long pause, my dad replied in a calm voice, saying maybe they should stop pretending to be bad parents since I'd already decided they were, and it seemed like I enjoyed seeing them hurt. Mom added one final jab, suggesting I was just playing the victim because I couldn't handle not being the center of attention. I didn't argue back. Why bother? Everything I'd said was just confirmed. They weren't able to accept any responsibility. So, I simply hung up and said goodbye. Honestly, I felt a weird sense of relief after that call. Sure, I cried, but it wasn't the gut-wrenching kind I remember from before. They were tears of freedom. For once, I had spoken my truth without holding back or feeling guilty. Later, I was sitting outside, watching the sunset, when my husband joined me. He took my hand and said nothing, "Just let me be." After a while, I asked, "They're never going to change, are they?" He replied, "No, but you have," giving my hand a squeeze. And he's right. I've changed a lot. The little girl who desperately sought her parents' approval isn't here anymore. I've realized I don't need their validation. Sure, it hurts that they'll never be the people I need them to be, but not as much as it did before. You know, for the first time, I'm not really worried about what happens with my sister's wedding or all the family drama. I've said my piece, and now it's up to them to deal with whatever comes. It's kind of weird, but it feels like a huge weight I've been carrying around my whole life is gone. It's not the happy ending I wanted with my parents, but maybe it's the one I needed. I finally stopped chasing the love that should have just been there from the start. Anyway, it's been 3 days since I had it out with my parents, and things have definitely taken an interesting turn. Malene tried to jump into the drama, but that didn't go well for her. My sister sent me this super thought-out message yesterday morning. Over the years, she's developed this snobby tone, and you could totally tell it in her text. She was like, "What you said to our parents was completely out of line. They've been there for us through everything, and you just can't blame them for being bad parents because of your own insecurities." She kept going with her usual mix of moral superiority and little jabs like, "I get that your wedding wasn't what you wanted, but that doesn't mean you have to ruin mine. Rebecca, not everything is a competition." I didn't even bother responding. I've learned that talking to her just gives her more ammo. After dealing with her manipulative ways for so long, I just blocked her. Malene doesn't like being ignored, so I figured that was it, but then my husband called me at work, laughing so hard he couldn't talk. Turns out, because Malene couldn't reach me directly, she found his number through some mutual friend and sent him a bunch of texts explaining why our sister relationship has always sucked. She started off professionally enough, like, "As Rebecca's sister and someone who cares about our family, I felt I had to reach out," but she quickly showed her true colors. She told my husband he needed to help me act more appropriately since he's the new guy in my life. Her messages got super condescending. She explained that family dynamics are complicated, as if my husband, who's a software architect with an MBA, didn't get it. She suggested he help me see reason before I ruin our family ties. Honestly, the kicker was when she tried to appeal to what she thought were his social climbing instincts. She wrote, "Maintaining good relationships with successful family members like me could be beneficial for your future. Rebecca's behavior is hurting her own prospects, and yours too." My husband saw right through her BS and found it hilarious. He loved how she assumed her business status or networking opportunities would impress him. He said, "She doesn't know me at all, does she?" We went through her messages together that night, and instead of being upset, I was laughing with him. Seeing her manipulative games fall flat against someone who couldn't care less was liberating. I realized something important about my sister. Despite all her success, she's still that insecure teenager who needs to knock others down to feel better about herself. She doesn't get what good relationships are about. When she couldn't get to me directly, she tried to manipulate my husband, just like she tried to turn my friends against me back in high school. Different decade, same tactics. With this new perspective, I see how Malene's actions were never just sibling rivalry. Growing up, she made it her mission to be the favorite, always telling our parents and me how much better she was. She had to overshadow everything I did and highlight my flaws to everyone I knew. My response to her games is so different now. Her messages might have plunged me into self-doubt 10 years ago, and 5 years ago, I'd have been upset and hurt. But today, I'm just over the drama and find her attempts at manipulation funny. My husband had the perfect response. Instead of getting caught up in her drama, he simply replied, "Thank you for your concern about Rebecca's well-being. As her husband, I'm focused on supporting her happiness, not managing her behavior. I think it's best if you direct any. So, if you've got any worries about the future, just chat with Rebecca directly, okay? Have a great day." Molin shot off one last message when she didn't get the response she wanted. "I see she's turned you against the family too. Don't come crying to me when everything blows up in your faces." Honestly, Molin's attempt to help only made me more determined to keep my distance from all that family drama. Nothing's changed. Her messages to my partner prove she's still the same controlling person who wants to script the perfect family narrative and sees any deviation as a threat. The funniest part of all this? Her persuasion failed so miserably. Instead of driving a wedge between my spouse and me, we're closer than ever. We just laughed off her texts and, instead of letting it get to us, we planned a fun weekend getaway. I've realized that family isn't about keeping up appearances or spinning stories. It's about being there for each other, sharing laughs, and supporting one another, especially when someone, even your sister, tries to mess with your head. I'm more certain than ever that keeping my distance from Molin's wedding chaos is the right move. Instead of getting sucked into endless family power struggles, my spouse and I are all about focusing on our happiness. They say success is the best revenge, but I'm learning that true success is about embracing your choices and surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, not drag you down. By that standard, I feel more successful than ever. Here's the third update. A couple of weeks ago, after my sister's failed attempt to control my partner, things have taken some wild turns. Despite my parents' desperate efforts to save their reputation, things are just spiraling further down. Through the family grapevine, I found out my parents have been frantically trying to rewrite the whole story. They're calling up each relative, accusing me of spreading nasty rumors because I'm supposedly jealous of Molin's perfect wedding. They're whining that I'm bitter because her wedding is going to be way fancier than mine was. And here's the kicker, they claim I left them out of my wedding on purpose just to play the victim. It's hilarious, really, since they've lived in the same house for 30 years and have had the same email forever, yet they're saying I sent their invite to some outdated address. The silver lining? Their attempts to control the damage are bombing hard. No one in the family is buying it. In fact, several family members shared their own stories about my parents' favoritism. One aunt even mentioned how mom pulled similar stunts at other family weddings to make sure Molin was always the center of attention. The way my extended family has reacted to this manipulation is seriously satisfying. Some key family members, who were supposed to play major roles in Molin's wedding, have backed out. They might even lose access to the fancy venue they snagged through family connections. Even a family friend's upscale clothing business suddenly has scheduling issues. At a family gathering last weekend, things hit a peak. When someone innocently asked about my wedding photos, my mom totally lost it out of jealousy, launching into a defensive rant about how I've changed since getting married and I'm trying to wreck the family. Her tantrum backfired big time, shocking relatives who didn't know the whole story and further ruining their carefully maintained image. It's especially ironic that my parents' frantic efforts to keep up their perfect family charade are actually what's tearing it apart. Each time they try to justify not being at my wedding, they just end up exposing more of their true colors. Family members are picking sides now, which they hadn't before. Even my dad's brother, who always stayed quiet to keep the peace, has finally apologized for not speaking up about how they treated me. He's decided not to attend any of Molin's wedding events with his family. I haven't done anything to counter their nonsense because, frankly, the truth is doing the work for me. Molin and my parents keep showing more of their toxic behavior every time they try to spin the story. Turns out, all those years of staying silent and putting up with their crap to keep the peace actually enabled them. My husband summed it up perfectly. They built this facade of the perfect family over the years, but it was all based on emotional manipulation and favoritism. It was bound to crumble eventually. As for me, I've never been better. I don't have to stress about trying to win my parents' approval, and the weight of managing Molin's feelings is off my shoulders. For the first time ever, I started worrying about keeping up that perfect family image. I've realized that sometimes, the best way to hit back is by simply letting the truth come out, instead of doing something drastic. Big shout out to Reddit for boosting my confidence to stand up for myself. Seriously, you guys have no idea how much your support and advice have helped me along the way. It's amazing to see what real family backing looks like, even if it comes from people you only know online. Thanks for tuning in, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that notification bell to keep up with more unbelievable real-life stories happening around you.